so excited today to reunite with who I call refer to as my big little brother, um, Craig Young, counselor, consultant, speaker, all the things. So, Craig, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, LT. I'm so good to see you and be on there with you. Um, you know how I feel about you and what you mean to academia and to the culture and to students and students in general, but also students of color and students that have come from transfer from community college. It's all the different ways that we get there. And
Listen, we're not talking about me today.
I
We're talking
know,
about you
I
today.
know.
Well, again, I appreciate no, seriously, I appreciate spending time with you. I know some people get grumpy about social media. I love social media because it allows me to keep up with folks like you, and I just feel like I've been a witness to the journey that you and Julie have been on, and it's just been positively amazing. So I was saying to you previously how, Craig, I've been marinating on this concept of legacy, right?
Yes.
Especially when it comes to first gens. Typically, we aren't talked about when the conversation about legacy comes up is usually about a legacy student and all that. However, we want to challenge that narrative and think about what kind of legacy do first gens leave, right? How we impact our families, our our future legacies and our communities. And so I wanted to reach out to you and I want to hear about your story, your journey, in addition to all the things that I said about you before. I know you are a proud husband to Julie and a proud father to Bryce. And so want to hear about that. Um, I do have a bone to pick with you, so we're just gonna
Okay.
clear the air. You probably
Let's
know
do it.
where I'm going with this. I have a bone to pick. Because of you, I had to care about Alabama football for three for 3 years, and I'm upset with you about that. But but like I said, it's been great to watch your family journey.
Thank
So
you. Thank you,
thank
LT.
yeah, sure. Um, So, Craig, we want to talk about, like I said, your journey in higher education. I know you identify as a first gen student. I want to get your take on that. But let's tell people first how you and I know each other. Um, and that was through TSP,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
We were trying to, oh, sorry, for people who don't know, the transfer summer program. And I was an instructor, and Craig was one of my students. It's so crazy. You remember those days, man?
I do. I definitely do. I
Uh,
definitely do.
well, uh, we'll get to it. I want to hear, we want you to talk about your journey, especially to
Okay.
UCLA. Craig, I didn't realize, though, that you're from Pennsylvania.
I am born in Pennsylvania, born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and then from there, um, lived in Philly, and then when my parents separated, moved to LA and moved to downtown, or moved to the South Bay part of LA, and grew up there, and moved there. And growing up, always wanted to go to UCLA. I mean, it was my dream. It was something about the colors, something about I even before I knew what a UCLA was, I wanted to go. And Julie always teased me because I only applied to one school, which I don't
No.
recommend. I know I do not recommend that. I do not recommend that at all. So I remember back then when I applied, it was a UC application, but you can pick all the UCs that you apply to. And I just picked UCLA. Like,
Oh my gosh. Okay,
I'm
we're
all
gonna we're gonna
in.
we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back. What grade were you in when you came from the East Coast to California?
I was in first grade.
This was little Craig.
Little Craig. Little Craig. I remember there was just something about the it was something about those colors. And I remember it's just something that I always wanted to do. And then I know with my mom, she parents separated. My mom was a single parent, so it was just her and my sister, and she worked at the Department of Water and Power as a legal secretary. And I remember her going to work at 7 in the morning, and I remember her coming back around
Wow.
3:34. We always had a little list of things we had to do, and I remember
Yes.
and I, and I remember it when she's driving up, running up because we live in apartments, running up to the apartment to make sure I could finish it before she got home because it was going to be on. But when she got home, great mom, but she was always tired
Right?
and just always tired. She needed that time, and sometimes she wasn't in a great mood when she came home because um, of especially she worked for attorneys, and there was a lot of things she had to do, a lot of stress, and she was responsible for paying the bills, responsible that we were fed, and clothed, and
Mhm.
all those things. And so I understood the stress on her, and she was not able to go to college because she got pregnant really young, and then it was she had to make a decision. It wasn't like now where you had online education, you had distance learning, you had all those things. So you had to make a decision because if you wanted to go to college, you had to be in college. You had to go. So and then who was going to watch me? Who's going to watch my sister? So a lot of people, not just people of color, but it's because it's more of a social economic thing than on this. So a lot of people in certain social economic stratas early in the 70s, 80s, 90s were having to make decisions to either to go to school or support their family. So my mom decided she tried to get work for the city, work for the county, get higher paying jobs that you can without that didn't require a college degree to go and support us. And from there, it was ingrained in me like I have to go to college because I know that I want to make sure that I can provide for my family, that I can be in a situation where uh, I can take care of my mom, or I can be in a situation where I have more options. So it was something that early on I could see that my mom's decision to not decisions my mom wasn't a decision, but it was a decision because there was extenuating.
Exactly.
She was a great student. Um, but I can say, but not having access to higher education um, limited our access in other areas and also limited our choices. So it's something that I understood very, very early, and it was important for me that I knew that I had to go to college. And then my mom just drummed it on me like, "You got to go to college." I didn't go to college, so so it was something that was made aware of very, very, very early.
Ooh, already off the top, got a couple things. One, you and I have similar trajectories. My mom was a single parent. It was just me though. She had me when she was 17 years old.
Hmm.
And very similar, like her, she went to the military to help provide for us, right? Um, One of the things I wanted to ask you, but I think you're answering it already, is when did you realize you were first generation? It sounds like you knew pretty early on.
Knew pretty early on because I remember having discussions about because she was tired. Sometimes she complained. She worked for attorneys. Attorneys can be rough. They can be temperamental. They can be
Yep.
arrogant. They can be sexist. They can be and all of that. So as a young black woman in the workforce, working in a very legal and hierarchical and traditional male dominated system, you can just imagine some of the things. And my mom's beautiful, and you can imagine some of the things that she kind of had to deal with. So I would ask her, why don't you get another, why don't you get another job? Why don't you just, and she would just say, this job right here pays for my qualification, what I do, this job pays more, and I just have to go through it. And I remember there's promotions that she would want to get. She said I couldn't get them because it required this degree. I even remember her going back and going to community college and trying to take classes here and there, but just not being able to navigate it just because it just didn't, you know,
Yeah.
the numbers and the time sacrifice, it didn't help. And my mom, so I was aware of all that at a very, very early age because sometimes
Yeah.
as parents, as kids in a single parent household, you're forced to grow up a little bit earlier as well,
Speak on it.
and you're exposed to things because sometimes that with and in the absence of that spouse, your mother or father or whoever has to have someone to talk to and vent about. So I would know very early that we could pay the light bill. I would know that the cable about to come off. I would know when it's you're like, okay, you got about 2 more days to watch BET. So you
because
better
it's getting cut off.
because it's gonna be off for a minute. And that was and I laughed about it now. We laughed about it then because it even when we didn't have that, we had love, and I was like, "Oh, shoot, I'll just go to my boy's house and we'll watch it there." So, but the point is, I understood and saw the correlation because the people that she worked for, she would tell me where they went to school. The attorney that she worked for went to Stanford. This attorney here went to SC, and all those things. So it was probably 5, 6, 7, 8. I made that correlation that okay, if you go to these certain schools, or if you have this education, it allows you to have the supervisory positions, the um,
Mm.
the higher paying positions. So I kind of made that distinction early.
Okay, shout out to Mama Young for
Uh,
holding it down.
she
We
held it
love
down
her.
we, dearly.
You're also reminding me of something my good friend Stephanie is known for saying. She said, "We're not all what she say? We're not all Oliver Twist. That it's not about having a sad story all the
Hmm.
time. Like what comes out of the struggle, right? You talk about the connection between you and your mom, the way she treated you. I'm sure as a son, but also as a young adult, like exposing things to you. Look at that. I loved it. I love that. And again, kind of similar vibe between my mom and me too. And you being witness to her journey is really really valuable. So, Craig, tell us what kind of student were you in school? As you know you want to go to college.
So my student journey was very interesting.
Okay, here we go.
So yeah. So as a elementary school student, I was exceptional. I mean, tested, gifted, and had all these, 90% in the reading and all that stuff. So I was all excited because it meant something to me. Middle school, I discovered sports, hip hop, and girls. Maybe not in that order. And my grades would fluctuate. Uh, I would start off well, high 4.0, 3.5, 3.7, would go down to the low threes and even twos, and it would go back up and it would end somewhere in the middle. So for me, um, it was all about focus, and traditional academics was very boring to me, and it didn't feel like it really spoke to me as even as a young African American male. The
Hmm.
teachers didn't seem to relate to me or weren't telling me anything I wanted to hear. It felt like my behavior or if was treated differently than other people of color's behavior. So it kind of turned me off. But I kind of played to my own detriment. I played a game of like I'm going to be defiant and I'm not going to really listen because I don't want to conform to this structure. But if you test me and act like I'm not smart, I'll show you how smart I am. And so I kind of played that game. High school was a high school was a about a 3.0, 3.2 student. I liked what I liked, so I would take my APs. It was weird because I have AP English, AP
Uh,
History, but I wasn't really good at math and sciences, so it would kind of bounce out. I was an athlete in there. Then I went to community college, did very well there because I was playing football, and then transferred to UCLA, and then UCLA with a SOS major, and I did really well in my major.
okay, yeah. So
I was
yeah,
around.
I like this.
Yeah, I was up and down, but I
Well, so tell us.
and then in my master's degree I was a 4.0 master, so I figured out my curve.
See, okay, people they need to hear that. You just never know. You never count yourself out. You never count
Yeah.
yourself out. When you were in high school, what high school did you go to, by the way?
I went to Los Altos High School in Hacienda Heights, California. Los Altos Conquerors. Shout
Okay,
out.
we're gonna shout them out.
Yes.
All right. So you're in high school. You're approaching graduation. Did you apply to 4 years, or did you apply directly to community college, and why?
So I did apply to some 4 years, but it was more football related. So
Okay.
schools that were recruiting me for football, and so my whole goal was I was gonna wherever I could play football, that's where I was gonna play. That's
Okay.
where
See, I love this football journey. Tell us about
yes,
it.
yeah. So I played football for 3 years at Los Altos. I definitely was not as good as my son, but I was like all we're in the San Gabriel Valley, so it was like an all San Gabriel Valley all league player. So I was um, mildly recruited by some mid major schools, and so
Okay. Wait, what position?
I was a cornerback. So I was a
Okay.
defensive player.
Okay. All right.
So,
All right.
so
CB, here
yeah,
we
so
go.
then so my I was just all football. That's what I was going to do. I was going to play football. At the final minute, some of these smaller schools, the scholarship money is not as much as like Alabama and all that stuff. So especially if it's between one or two guys and all that stuff. So it was between me and a couple guys. They took the other guy, so I was and let you know at the last minute. And coaches do that. It's just part of life. Let you know at the last minute that it's not going to work out. You could go out there later, and we could have money for you then, but we're not sure. So I was kind of disheartened. I was like, you know what? I'm done with this, and I'm going to go just focus on academics. So then I went to community college. It was Mount San Antonio Community College in Walnut. And then I focused on that because I said, well, I want to, because I've always had a heart for counseling and mental health. And so I was pretty level headed. And I
Hmm.
was someone that just I always was fascinated by how the mind works and what makes people think and do the things that they do. So at that point in time, I really focused. That's the first time I ever focused on academics, kind of exclusively. And so I went there, and then transferred to UCLA, which was, in my opinion, I just love UCLA. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just, it was, and this is no indictment because I don't want to, but because you get canceled these days. Um, it was more diverse when I went there. So, and I know, and I think I've seen some enrollment things. So I think it's getting a lot better, getting a little bit more diverse. But when I was there, it was really diverse. Great instructors, um, and I just had a wonderful time there.
So at Mount SAC, you sort of connected with that academic part of you. The work that you're doing now, by the way, with counseling and therapy. Tell us about your football dreams, though. How was that for you? You wanted to play, and then what was that? When did you make a decision, or was it decided for you that you weren't going to play anymore?
It was a little bit of both. So when the scholarship fell through at the very end, um, I didn't handle it the best way. I think I was discouraged, and I was I was angry at the coaches, and I was angry at the coaches
Yeah,
at my school because I felt like some things weren't handled well. I felt like there's some
sure.
favoritism. I felt like you know there were some other players that were pushed over me and my best friend at the same time, who still is my best friend, playing on the team. And so there's a lot of anger and there's a lot of
Okay,
resentment. There's a lot of feeling of something that I was owed. So I was like, well, I'm done with this. It's political. I'm going to control my own destiny.
okay,
Um, I one of my biggest regrets was that I did that I quit, and that I let these hardships and a feeling that I was owed something um, make me make a decision that had implications throughout my life. Because once you stop playing football, especially at the college level, it's like you can't pick it up again. You can't go and play pickup football and have 11 people there in stands, 22 guys and the thing. Like it's it's a very unique and specific experience. And
right.
I think because I was in my feelings, um, I made a decision that was rash. And I think sometimes as a person, as a person of color, as a person sometimes who, when we come from a single parent household and we come from a situation where um, there wasn't I didn't have a male kind of figure there to kind of
Mm,
be there like, yo, and not saying that only a male figure could do that, but in
sure.
that sometimes you have your mom who didn't really want me to play football anyway. But then,
Mm,
sometimes and this could be a mentor, or this could be someone that just has a unique experience and saying, look, as a man, sometimes and through life, sometimes things are gonna happen to you. You're not gonna get something that you feel that's owed to you rightfully.
yeah.
How do you handle that? And do you
My
let that
goodness.
define you? Do you quit, or do you figure out a way to figure it out? And do you process um, before you quit, or before you make these decisions? You process um, what you're giving up, and then juxtapose that to, is there another solution, and all those things. And so that's why I think it's very important for young people to have mentors, to have someone that you can talk to before you make decisions. I'm talking either academically, socially, emotionally. um, as a 19 and 20, 21-year old, the great thing, because I know there's this urge and this desire to want to, because you're feeling grown, to want to figure it out by yourself. Tap into people who have all this knowledge, who've made the same mistakes that you have. Tap into that knowledge. And that doesn't mean you ultimately can't make decisions, but tap into that wisdom to
Yeah.
get those perspectives. And so now ultimately it worked out, and I got a son who was able to do everything that he wanted to football wise. And maybe part of that, and not maybe, but part of that decision is why I was so involved in his life, and wanted to make sure that he never quit anything, and wanted to make sure that
Beautiful.
there's always someone advocating for him. But he's a benefit of that, of my mistake, and kind of my sensitivity, and my emotional kind of immaturity at that point.
Oh, Craig, I love this. Listen, all serious talk though, you did a really difficult thing, which is transfer from a community college
Yes,
to a
yes,
4 year
yes.
as a person of color, specifically black and first gen. So for the rest of the world who's always saying, "Oh, just transfer, just go to community college first," the data does not support that that happens, right? I want to hear about, first of all, how long were you at Mount San Antonio College,
Mhm.
and what you already mentioned you applied for one school,
Yeah,
but can you walk us through that process in terms of what kind of support you had? So how long were you there, and what kind of support did you have to transfer in the first place?
absolutely. Okay. So,
Uh-oh.
like,
Uh-oh.
like
Look
you
at
said,
it.
the transfer process um, is very difficult for a lot of reasons. So one, and once you go to community college, um, it's easy to get caught in kind of their system, because there's prerequisites to this, and a lot of, sometimes you have to make sure, when you, whatever subject you take, that it is transferable to the college that you want to go to. Like, because you can mess around and take these classes, and then you apply, and like none of them are
Nope.
transferable, and it's like you're starting from zero. So um, luckily for us, lucky for me, the transfer department at Mount San Antonio was really good, and it's easy again because I knew exactly where I wanted to go. So
Okay.
for me, it was a little bit easier, because whatever class I took, I wanted to make sure, does that transfer to UCLA. So having an idea of where you want to go, and it doesn't have to be UCLA, but if you want to go into the USC system, or if you want to go knowing where you're going to want to go is helpful. The second part of that is, so that process was pretty smooth, because I wanted to make sure, every class I made sure that it was a UCLA equivalent or a transfer. I was there for about 2.5 years, because again, in community colleges, it's difficult to get classes. They don't offer as many classes as they do
Right.
in universities. So it took me extra time, because sometimes that class was offered once a year or once
A
a month.
year.
Exactly. If you missed it, it was a problem. So, and then since I wasn't an athlete, or I didn't have any of those special things that jump you up to the line to get admitted. Like, I had to make sure I got there first. I had to make sure that I registered first. Or had to beg. Sometimes I had to go in and beg the professor to add you. Waiting at the end with your sob story. If I don't get this class, I won't. That was the last class I need to get used to. I mean, I used that like 5 times. After they're like, "You still here?" And so all the things that you had to do to get there, and so you navigate that,
Yeah.
and then when you go to, in a community, and Mount San Antonio is a fairly large community college, and but then when you go to UCLA, which is like acres
Right. Literally.
Literally acres and that and Los Angeles, all these different buildings. It's very overwhelming. And then you kind of have to go through this kind of, for me, and I'm a very confident person, but even then, this kind of inferiority complex that like
Mm,
I came here from a community college, so I didn't really get here um, four
mhm.
years. So I didn't really have the grades to get here out of high school, but 2 years. So now I got there. So that messes with your mind. And sometimes you're in there and you're wondering, are you as worthy or are you smart as? You know, the, did the prerequisites or the things that they taught me at community college, did that prepare me? So all those things just mess with you. And then the class sizes are so much bigger.
I was literally thinking that. You were in sociology too?
Yeah, yeah, it's huge. And I didn't understand the whole concept of class and a discussion session. So first couple times I was just going to lecture and I was like, I'm good. And then the TA was like, I haven't seen you in any of these discussion sessions. I'm like, what's a discussion session?
Craig, stop it.
I was like, oh. I thought the lecture was the class. I took my notes and I'm
I'm good.
good. so so that process took a while, and it took a while for me to get the courage to speak up in class. It was a lot of things, but at that point, they still have AAP.
Yeah, AP still there.
Okay, so AAP was crucial to kind of, that felt like a safe place because that's where a lot of the transfer students would go.
Right.
You would go, you could sit there and talk, and you could have somebody the transfer. And sometimes as a transfer student, also I wasn't that much older, so I was still. But the transfer students, sometimes you're older than some of the kids, and then they've already come in there and they've known each other for 2 years. They know where the party is at. They know where the everything's at. And you're coming in kind of new. So it is definitely a different experience.
Yeah.
So I don't regret it because that was my journey, but it was definitely a different experience. And I think transferring in um, probably hurt my ability to have like long lasting um,
Mhm.
relationships and connections with some of the kids because some of the people I still have some friends from UCLA, but when you come in there for 4 years and you're in the dorms and you
Yeah.
lived together and we went through that freshman year together and some of those struggles together. I think those are bonds to take. And then I came in there and I already had a girlfriend, and she was who ended up being Julie, who
Right.
ended up being my wife. And so
Spoiler alert.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was a thing too. So it was a lot going on.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, did you live on campus at all, or did you
I
always
did.
commute?
I commuted. It was just financially because I mean it's
Mhm.
expensive. It's expensive out there. So I did. I did the commute.
Yeah. Yeah, it can feel different, and I don't know if you remember this about me, but I transferred too, I transferred twice, and at a certain point, even if you're not all that much older, you feel older and you have older responsibilities.
Yes, abs- absolutely, absolutely. But I do remember there was a bunch of cool stuff at UCLA because there was always shooting movies. Um, I remember they would hand out little flyers for premieres. You could screen a movie.
Oh, I remember that.
Yes, I used to do that. I remember when I was having a bad day, walking to In and Out or going to DD Reese. I mean, it's just some good stuff. I enjoyed
So, did you go full-time?
it.
A. Okay, full-time. Did you also work?
I did.
Craig Young, how did you balance all that?
Um, now I worked part time, so
Okay.
because there's some people that are working full time. So I was able to. I mean, I just had to. I mean, I had to pay gas. I had to buy books. I had to eat. So I mean, so for me, what worked was I was able to get jobs at like banks. So I was like a bank teller. So I would work at. I think I worked at Wells Fargo, I think, and Bank of America. So jobs that had flexible hours. So I worked like 15 hours a week, and I would work
Okay.
jobs that were close to work to LA. And then like you said, I told you I had a girlfriend, right? I had to take her out something. We had to go, I had to go on dates, go to
Meet me at
movies.
Diddy Reese, babe.
Exactly, for real, in and out. And and it was just my mom was so proud that her son went to UCLA. Like
Oh, man.
when she used to tell everybody, and she still has the acceptance letter. And then when I graduated, I gave her my degree, so my degree is actually framed in her house. So I knew I couldn't fail. because
Mm.
I knew it because I could not tell her I didn't graduate from UCLA because I knew how much it meant to her. She would tell everybody
Oh,
like it was just to be a non sequitur. Like we were nothing related to college, and she's like, "Oh, you know, my son goes to UCLA." You know, like, it has nothing to do with anything. It's like,
that's
what's
so
the weather like outside? I don't know, but I think it's 72 at Westwood. My son just told me. So,
because he goes to UCLA.
he goes to UCLA. So it was so much pride. So I knew that I couldn't fail. So I just had to make it work. And so that
Mm.
meant going to work to buy books or doing what I had to do. Because I mean, I had some financial aid and I had student loans and all that, but I didn't want to take out the maximum amount because I just didn't want to be
Yeah,
saddled with that debt. So I just kind of figured it out. And and social classes were hard, but it was kind of in my wheelhouse. It was something that I enjoyed. So
yeah.
it was definitely manageable. But um, and I was younger. You know how it is when you're younger. You got
Boy,
energy,
I was about to say you have more energy.
so much more energy. Like I couldn't do that right
Now, for some people, they worry about transferring because they worry about time to degree. How long did it take you to complete your time at UCLA?
now. I think all told, maybe it was an extra year. So I
Okay,
think it was 4. I think it was 5. It's and part of that
that's
to be
amazing.
yeah, and part of that to keep it a band, like the youngsters say, was a couple times it was just me not focused or I took the wrong classes or I had to drop a class. I had to drop
Hmm.
stats. That's stats 18. I'll never forget it. I think I took yeah. Anyway, that's another story. So a lot of it sometimes was because I came in as a social, but I think for a second I wanted to be a poli sci major for a second, and I was
For a
thinking,
second, you changed it in your mind.
yeah, in my mind, and then I know it was comm studies for like, but I remember that was so uh, competitive to get into and
Oh
all
my
that stuff.
God.
So
Yeah.
you had to like know somebody, and you had to. It was like a comm studies like mafia, like you had to be a made man.
Okay, he's spitting facts, y'all. This is all true.
So it was for real. So I think I played around with a couple majors. So if you're going there with a plan and focus, and you kind of know what you're going to do, and don't drop stats 2 times, and then wait to the end to take Spanish. I think it's not you're going to graduate pretty much the same time as everybody else. It's not like that because
But
especially if you're coming in as a junior.
to be fair, Craig, you turned out okay, even though you.
Thank you.
Okay, did you plan immediately to go to graduate school? So, okay, here's why I asked. For me, because this was a change in my family, no one else had like gone on to a 4 year before. I literally could have gone to that 4 year. By the way, I started off at UNC Chapel Hill. I didn't
Ooh,
graduate from there, but I could have gone there, turned around, came back home. The family would have been super excited. The idea of going on to graduate school, like, ooh, a whole master's degree, that was huge in my family.
absolutely.
What was that process like for you? And uh, when did you go to grad school?
Great.
After, yeah, yes.
Thank you, thank you. Another because my journey is so non-linear, and so that's
Okay,
what people understand. Like
break it
you,
down.
yeah, you can go as long as your destination you're gonna end up be where you're gonna be, but don't trip off like if you have to make detours or you've gone on a path and you realize that doesn't work. It doesn't mean you have to stay on it. You can keep going. You can make adjustments. So once I graduated from UCLA, um, I actually worked my first job out of UCLA because I love sports so much was in sports. So I worked in Fox Sports. Um, yeah, crazy. No, so I'll back up. So just shows how circular life is. So at UCLA, there was a department I can't remember it, but it helps you get internships, right?
Yeah.
So remember I was a social major, and so on my line I was going to be a psychologist or I was going to work in mental health. So I had this internship, and one of this internship was it was like a paid internship, and you worked at like a hospital, but it was like a kind of like hospital boys home for youth who had
Okay.
who had some issues. So we go to this hospital. I'm working. It's fine. And like, so, and there's like a riot. It's a straight riot. There's a fight, and
Did you say a riot?
it's a riot at the
Okay.
hospital. It's a riot. It's going down. And so I was like, yo, this is mental health. I'm good. I don't want to do this anymore. So I changed tracks, and then I was like, well, yep, it's serious. Skirt, skirt. So what I like is sports. So from there, I leveraged some relationships at UCLA, which is which is one of the cool parts about being UCLA. And I worked. My first job was I interned at the Los Angeles Clippers. Then from there, I worked at Fox Sports Net in the sports department. So I worked. It was like sports affiliates, and it was some sort of relations with sports affiliates. So I did that for a while, and then worked again at Fox, and this is more on the network side. And then from there, I got recruited to work for an advertising agency in New York, and then that's when we moved to the East Coast. And Bryce was actually born in Philadelphia. So
What?
yeah, so I had a
I'm
whole
getting all the tea.
yeah, so I had a whole nother career. Um, After working in
Okay.
advertising for a while, just the time constraints, the you just were never home. You were always selling, and it was just a very corporate kind of existence. That didn't work for my soul, didn't work for my spirit. Not against anybody that does that, just for me personally, and then the group I work with. So I went back to like, wow, what did I at the core? What have I always wanted to do? And that was when I came back to mental health. So we moved, left left the job, left the freaking American Express expense card with the American Express expense account. We
What?
would just charge anything to left that life and moved back to California. And then I went back to get my master's, and that's when I wanted to be in counseling because for me it was like I'm spending all my life selling a product and selling something. I wanted to do something that impacted people and it made a difference, and I wanted to help people. And I came back and I got my master's degree again. I changed careers. I started working in mental health, starting as a case manager, and my wife was a teacher, and we drastically changed our life and started that. And it took me and to get my master's about 2.5 years, and then from there started working as a therapist.
I let me pause to remind the people of what we are hearing and the nuggets that you are dropping, because I do see people really getting caught up on like careers and whatnot, or even a major for that matter. But I love to hear you say it wasn't linear. Most things are not in our lives, and that you change your lifestyle, and you can do that, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because I mean, you're gonna figure out the finances. You're gonna figure out, and I'm not saying be irresponsible. Like take care of your credit, pay your bills, save, like do all that stuff. But you're gonna figure out that you're gonna find out what's really important. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to invest time and energy in the short amount of time that we have on this rock on stuff and a career that you don't want to do, that doesn't fulfill you, that doesn't enrich you, that doesn't nourish you. It doesn't
Mm.
give back. It doesn't help people. And this is no indictment on making money. Like no problem with that. But because some people, hey, making money and having and working on what makes them happy, and no value judgment on that. But figure
Right.
out what makes you happy, and try your best to make a career and to make a career out of it.
I love this. Just so you know, I want to ask you about how you think your experiences benefited Bryce. But
Mhm.
before that, can you talk a little bit about the, the process of going to graduate school and what
Absolutely.
that was like for you? You already told us your grades were great, but what kind of support did you have for applying to graduate programs? And did you also know like I know what school I'm going to, or was there more variety this time?
So this time again, it wasn't. Um, it was more. No, I applied to way more schools this
Okay,
time.
this is different.
Yeah, Julie would no one would let me do that. Everybody thought I was crazy. And so for that, the support I got, I had a lot of support from people that had worked in kind of in the mental health field, and that's talking about mentors. Um, when I decided that I wanted to work in mental health, I talked to some agencies and was able to figure out. I met with the African American male psychiatrist, and they were able to kind of point me to the process, and then from there, um, each individual school that I was thinking about applying to, I spoke to their admissions office. I was there. I made myself more available. I made the calls. I introduced myself, and that comes with more maturity and confidence. Um,
Mhm.
Online, did my research about what schools and what made sense for me. Um, and the process of grad school was, again, I went to more of a, because I could have went to a bunch of schools, but for me, since I was working, I went to more of a small private professional school, which is completely different than my experience at UCLA, which is huge campuses. I want to try the other things, smaller class sizes. So I went to Pacific Adults College in Pasadena, and it was closer. And
Yep.
it specialized in what I wanted to do, and therapist in therapy. So I went there, and for me, graduate school was, and also was flexible and allowed me to work. Because again, back there, a lot of the schools, a lot of the, especially at that point, the UC schools were pretty much eliminated because I could not, I had to work. Like at that point, I like
And they were full-time programs.
they were full time. It's different now.
Mhm.
Like so yeah, they were full time programs. So I couldn't. Again, it would have been this. And oftentimes, people of color were having to make these sacrifices. It's an economic thing because that's how the gap goes. Like a lot of families can afford to say, and a lot of people can afford to say, okay, Johnny or Jane's going to go back to school for 2 years. We got you.
We're gonna
Or
support you.
we'll support you. You can move in. You can do this. We can do that. And that's not the reality for the vast
Yep.
majority of people of color.
Yep.
That's just not the reality. So I knew for me, I had to go to a school that allowed me to still work because I felt for me, um, I changed my career and I changed our family's lifestyle already.
Yep.
So um, it's already making an adjustment. They shouldn't be punished by that, like by ruining our, all these things by
Mhm.
not being able to do it. So
Mhm.
I knew still had to work. Now that was tiring. I'm not gonna lie, and it was difficult. But the byproduct of it, I was way more focused because you only have and more organized. You have a finite amount of time to do things. You have to study more. Like
Yep.
in college, I would study, watch TV, listen to the radio, go hang out with my boys, go play some ball, come back, study again, watch TV, and then cumulatively at some point I would get it done.
Some studying would happen.
Yeah, but get something to eat, um, wake up at 4 in the morning and study again right before the test. Like all those things that I could do which are terrible study habits. By the way, I'm not
You're like, I'm not endorsing this.
not endorsing them at all. But that was I just didn't have that luxury because when you're working and still married and all that stuff, like you just don't have the extra time. So that was so it allowed me to focus. And also sometimes with graduate school, because I know a lot of times one of the hesitations of going back to graduate school, especially after your 4 years, like, man, I just got done with school. I don't want to go to school again and sitting there and I need a
Mhm.
break. And also, sometimes that break means you don't come back. But with graduate school, the cool thing is if it's your graduate study, it's something that you're interested in anyway, for the most part.
That's right.
So it's not going to be as because you don't have all those GEs, you don't have all those courses that you have to take. And then graduate school is so much more interactive because it's smaller between your other graduates, the other students, than a lot of general ed classes where it's a lecture and you're coming
Mhm.
in and all that stuff, and it's really the instructor imparting their knowledge on you and explaining to you the course material, and then you studying it and passing a test. In graduate school, it's still that, but because most graduate the theory is you're going to use that knowledge and apply it to your profession. It's a lot
Mhm.
more interactive. There's more projects, and there's more you and your graduate, and a lot more teamwork and more of the things. So it's much more fun's a bit of an overstatement, but it's much but, but it's much more enjoyable, and it's
It is though.
it really is. Like I enjoyed grad school, I really did.
Yeah. Um, Enjoy might be a strong word for me, but yeah, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
get it.
yeah.
I, well, if I heard the timeline correctly, you you had a son while you were in graduate school, right?
Mhm.
Or I mean, not necessarily while, but Bryce was born and you were in your graduate program.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, like you said, things are different. When when you look back now, what do you think you learned from your journey that you may have passed on to him, or maybe some things you wanted him to avoid to
Mm,
help him be the person? I would say, Craig had to be Craig so Bryce could be Bryce.
yes.
What do you think, what's your thoughts about that?
Oh, that's great. Well, one, hmm, yeah, to answer that. That's a great question. Um, I'll break it down like this. So
Yeah,
first, because obviously I went to grad school and was able to have a career. My wife also ended up getting her master's and had a career, and we're not rich by any means, but she's a teacher and I'm a therapist, and so we're middle class to upper middle class upbringing,
right,
right? So for that, one, Bryce was able to have so, and I came from a single parent household where it's a smart mom, and we're more of a lower income, so there were opportunities
right.
we didn't have. So, based upon our economics, that's one thing. He had opportunities and was able to live in a certain area and go to private schools
Mm,
and to have access to other families who were doing well, who were educated, and so that changes kind of his trajectory and his outlook a little bit. Also, um, whatever he was interested in, if his music, he played saxophone for a while, whatever he was in sports, we were able to augment that and help him to get the training, get the get the exposure, get the expertise in whatever it was that he wanted to
mm,
do. And
mm,
and the last one is we provided a an opportunity for unconditional love and an opportunity to and a family kind of like theme that you were able to do what you were able to try anything that you want. And now your talent will dictate if that's successful or not. But the possibilities are endless. Whatever you want to try, let's try and see where it goes. But never like, you can't do that. We can't afford that. Or people don't do that. There's nobody that does that. And I think that's what having going to college, having and I think sometimes that's to me that's what this first being a first gen was about. It's about breaking this ceiling and letting them know that this ceiling does not exist. And it was, but it broke through, and the ceiling stops with me. It stopped. That doesn't exist for our family, and so that had to happen. And then understanding and being able to explain that through this process as you're going through that ceiling, there's going to be things that temporarily will stop your ascension, but we're going to figure out a way to figure that out, but we'll never quit. And I think that's me having quit, me and constant. I made sure that we weren't going to quit and we were always going to solve things, and that giving him the confidence and the tools to to adapt and to navigate a world that's not designed for him.
you got me legit crying up here, man. That's so beautiful. Woo! That was beautiful. That was really beautiful. And I can I just want to tell you, Craig, instead of just posting on your Facebook page, that you can see that. Like you could just see that love and your family and your support. Um, I wrote this down because you said it. The advocacy, like, is so very evident. And I was thinking about you all recently because I was like, did Bryce graduate in 3 years? Like, how did that
Yeah,
happen?
yeah. I'm five. Boy graduated three, and with the and it's so he's all these act. Everybody knows all his athletic accolades and his prowess and all that stuff, which is awesome. And one of the proudest moments for me was because he started off as a communication studies major at Alabama. So he's doing
Okay.
sports studies because he figured like after however football ends, whenever it ends, I want to make that my career, and I'm going to be a broadcaster. So So he goes in there,
Okay.
doing that. So he calls me um, sophomore year. I'm from Dad. What's up? I changed my major. Like, you changed your major? He's like, yeah. Changed my major to psych. I'm gonna be a psych major. And it just like I it's all that because it's like, yeah, you know, I'm a psych major, kind of do what you do. If that doesn't work out, I want to work with kids. I want to do that. And as a parent, you don't get a lot of those. You don't get a lot of those. I mean, we have a close relationship and all that stuff. That's my guy. But he's 21, and sometimes as they get teenagers,
Yeah.
they tend to point out more of the things you've done wrong
Right.
than you've done right. Like, dang, I do something right. But
That's beautiful.
when he's like he changed his major and he was just interested in wanted to do what I did. I mean, that's great. So obviously he's going to play professional football, but I think even in that he still has that mental health, that advocacy, that psych background, and some of the things that he's interested in. So it really helped. But yes, all that to say, he did graduate in 3 years and with a real major. He graduated with a major in psychology and a minor in communications.
And we all know no one plays professional sports forever, so he will have to pivot. Um, and you've been a model for that, right? Of seeing you do different things and be mindful of family. So I'm sure that's another thing that he's aware of as well. I just want to say, Craig, look at us, man. Look
Look
at
at
us.
us. Look at us.
It's just been so amazing. I just wanted people to hear your story. Of course, Bryce deservedly deserves a lot of attention, but
Absolutely.
there's always another story. And like I said, I wanted to hear more about your background. This has just been so enlightening and so positive and so inspiring and affirming. And like I said, I'm just damn proud of you all. And I love seeing all your pictures and seeing you at the award shows and everything. It's just again just honored to just be a witness to your journey. As we wrap up, I just want to give you any last words. Again, we've been talking about this idea of legacy and what it means for the first gen experience. And so let me know if there's anything else you want to say as we
Yeah.
close out.
One. Thank you for the opportunity to come on. It's been a blessing. Look at us, and I've always admired you and what you and I still do now. It's like it's and I'm so glad we did this. And I think as a legacy, what I would want to impart is that it's never too late. Like, it's never too late to start your legacy, or to change the course of a legacy, or if there's a legacy that maybe your family has that hasn't been positive, that doesn't define you. Or if there's a legacy that maybe includes some trauma, that that doesn't define you. I mean, what defines you right now is that there's in I don't know, even if there's the meditation, if there's a faith base or whatever it is, whatever you need to go to where to get you centered, but there's always an opportunity to to redefine and to establish your legacy. And I would impart people to, especially us as a community, to start making more decisions considering legacy and not considering right now. Because I think when we stay too much in that, then that's what gets us into trouble. But that's us as a people thinking about that, being able to rewrite our history and to rewrite our to affirm and to establish the amazing legacy that's reflective of of us.
We'll end it there. I couldn't say add anything more. Craig Young, thank you for joining me and
My pleasure,
hanging
LP.
out with the community. And good luck to you and Bryce. Give my best to Julie. Oh my
I will.
goodness.
I definitely will. Bye, sis.
All right, take care.
Bye bye.